Welcome to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling and more, with the emphasis on more this week. I am Stephen Conway. Jeremy Feinstone is away this week, but I have a very special guest. This is Scott Edwards from the Five Star Joshi Show. He's here on the Fight Game Media Network, and he's the perfect guest to have this week as we discuss the historic crossover show that just took place. A wonderful show from the Ariake Arena in Tokyo that featured both New Japan and Stardom talent, the very first of what we hope are a lot more co-promoted shows between New Japan Pro Wrestling and Stardom, both companies underneath the Bushi Road banner. Scott, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you joining us. If anyone needs anything, any information about Joshi, you're the guy to go to. So perfect guest for us this week.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. You couldn't have picked an easier show for me to talk about. Like I watch all of New Japan's big shows, but this was one that I was obviously going to watch. I even watched it live. That's the Stardom effect. They get me to watch everything live. But oh man, what a show, what a weekend. Lots of emotions, but it's hard to say they did anything but hit it out of the park.
Well, I'm going to mention to our viewers here, anyone that is watching this right now, we want to be very gentle with Scott. He's been traumatized by by this show, and we're going to get into that, and we're going to talk about why. But this has been a difficult few days for him, so we're going to be very nice to him. But it was a great show, and I have to say, as somebody who does a show every week about New Japan, and I'm in the tank for New Japan, I'm unashamed about that. The Stardom women were the best part of this show by a good distance. And you could tell what this meant to them. You could tell what it meant to the company, because we really got some wonderful performances from them. And I'm not just talking about the main event, which was brilliant, but all through this thing, you could really see they were motivated. They're certainly talented. That's not in question. But boy, did they show up. And I'm just looking over like once you get past Will Ospreay and Shota Umino, who had a fantastic match, most of the rest of the best part of this card had to do with Stardom talent.
Yeah, the thing with Stardom is like they're as driven in a arena full of 7,000 people as they are in a arena full of 500 people.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of confidence that when they were on this stage, they'd pick it up for New Japan, who's this is just another day at the ballpark for them in a lot of ways. And I will say some of the New Japan talent definitely went out there and showed out, which you talked about that Ospreay shooter match, which I did think was fantastic. All the New Japan, I want to give them credit for what they did in the mixed tags too. It takes both sides to tango and make those feel special, and that's where I think New Japan really went in, because it's like, we can only do so much, but if you have talent that cares, like the Tom Lawler and Tanahashi, like you could tell those two especially cared about the whole scenario, and it just led to what I thought was one of the best shows of the year.
It really did flow very easily. This was a very watchable show. It was a long show, but it didn't feel like a long show, which is the best compliment you can really give it. And there was a little bit of everything out there. There was a lot of variety to the styles that were worked out here. So I just thought it was terrific all the way. Now, of course, like I mentioned, you're a little bit traumatized there. We can start off with the headline, which is Kairi defeated Mayu Iwatani in a fantastic main event to become the first IWGP women's women's champion. Excuse me, heavyweight champion. There she is, right there with her title. And this match was unbelievable. We're going to get to that in detail. Jeremy and I, when we previewed this show earlier this week, we both picked Kairi. We thought that the philosophy of this was going to be that they wanted somebody, because this title is basically kind of for a big show and a North American audience. The idea being, and when New Japan comes to North America, it was awkward that it wasn't a mixed card, that it was an all-male card. And so just culturally in North America, it helps to have women on the show. We thought that they would go with the familiar face of Kairi, someone who's been over here for a few years, with the idea of someone like either Mayu Iwatani or plenty of the other talented women on the Stardom roster, and we're going to get into some of these little possibilities for Kairi, because they hinted at a few of them. Well, they didn't just hint; they told us a few of them. but as a chase, that way you could
Yeah.
introduce these people that maybe didn't have that much of a U.S. presence as a chase. But I know you were pretty devastated. I know you really wanted Iwatani to win this thing. Could you tell us a little bit about why you felt so strongly about it?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll preface it by saying this. I mean, Mayu Iwatani is my favorite wrestler of all time, so
Okay,
there's a little bias automatically there.
that's
But
okay.
when it comes to the history of Stardom, there's no one that defines what Stardom is more than Mayu Iwatani. I mean, she debuted on their first show. That
Yeah.
her career is Stardom's lifetime. Like that is they couldn't go more hand in hand. And I thought, she was there, and I've said this, I've tweeted this, I'm sure 100 times. I've wrote this 100 times in my head, but she was there for the good times, the bad times, and everything in the middle. She held down the fort as their ace, has held down the fort, and they're booming now, so it's
I
different.
mean,
I always, to me, when the term was originally announced, it's like, oh, it's going to be Mayu, unless Kairi's in the tournament. That was always my head space. That was always my idea, because you knew, and it's hard to disagree with why they would go with Kairi. And like truthful in terms of business, like to me, this is a Stardom New Japan Bushiroad decision to go with Kairi, and I understand that, because you're trying to get eyes on the title, you're trying to get prestige on the title, you're trying to have people recognize these wrestlers. Whether Kairi goes to the United States for those strong shows or is on Wrestle Kingdom, as we know, like people are going to see her name and they're going to be like, oh, I know who that is. And I get that. I do get that. It's just, there was something about Mayu Iwatani getting to be the first ever that was just really exciting to me. And she's the first ever person to win everything in Stardom. So it's not like, but she doesn't acknowledge that. She's like, no, I want to be the first ever champion. So yeah, I was devastated. Still am. Rewatched the match today. It's just as good as the first watch. I just was able to sit there and actually like pay attention to all the little bits, because the first watch through was just the emotional journey. But I mean, it's hard to get really, really upset in terms of who they went with. It's like, oh, you have a great option, and then you have another great option. It's like it was a win-win. Truthfully, it's just as a Mayu fan, I really, really want her to get that moment, but I'm sure she will down the line now.
It seems like that's a title that she's eventually going to win, and
Yeah.
there is a connection she has with fans, and it happens both in Japan and anywhere she goes. And it's very, very special. Not very few people have that kind of connection with the crowd that she can get. I think that with a few appearances in North America, the people will be rallying for her to actually win this thing eventually. She can win people over very, very easily. And I think that chase, whether and it might not be Mayu immediately, they might go with somebody else earlier on, but I think we're eventually going to see her hold that championship, because like I said, she just seems to add that legitimacy. I'll tell you what, though, they scared me, Scott, because when and I mentioned that I subscribed to Stardom World when I knew that this show was coming, and the 5-Star Grand Prix, their version of the G1, was going on. And, we had you on the show then, and I got my Stardom subscription going. And they made me sweat a little bit, because she surrendered the SWA title to go after the IWGP title, and I really thought for a second, I was like, oh wait, she is going to win this thing.
Right,
because that's a common story, is like, I'm going to surrender this title and then go after the big one. But there's no doubt they have plans for that, and that SWA title, for the folks that don't know, that's a title that is I suppose the rule is any challenger has to come from a different country than the champion. So having it on Iwatani basically eliminated anybody from Japan from challenging for it, which really limits your resources at that point. So it makes a little bit more sense to have someone perhaps like Tekla, who's from Austria, or I don't know if Julia the Italy counts, or if but
it does actually.
It does. Okay, I figured there was a technicality on that. So there are ways. There are probably a few more options, but yeah. that one made me sweat. I mean, the way they booked this, I wasn't sure. I felt like this might be where they're going, but at no point was I was like, well, this is the obvious thing, because like you said, Iwatani is the ultimate Stardom representative.
Yeah, they made it as 50-50 as they could with the result from the previous day and the way they booked that. With the dropping of the SWA title, they couldn't have had it be more perfect, honestly, going into that show, because it's like, yeah, this is actually a legitimate match with all the drama, and it's that's how you enhance a match. You don't want it to be like a 75-25 believability. You don't want it to be, because that's what happens in wrestling, right? Like when Okada defends the title against Zack Sabre Jr., we're not going to sit here and believe Zack Sabre Jr. is going to win, especially as early in the reign as it usually is.
Yeah.
But when it's against Jay White, like it was, you're like, it could change here. And they just had the perfect 50-50 split, and it made that match so much more appealing, made those final 5 minutes that much more exciting. And that's what you want in wrestling. That's why I think it worked the way it did. And it's the biggest match in Stardom history, plain and simple. That's what I've been saying. And I'm sure there will be bigger matches down the road, but as of right now, that was the biggest match. And yeah, the two best people to do it. Yeah, the best story to do it. Just natural story plus the way they booked it. And yeah, I mean, we're going to talk more about the match itself later, but it was special stuff. Special stuff.
It really was. And we're about to go through that whole historic crossover card match by match, because it's worth doing. There was something in each match that was interesting. Wanted to mention one other thing before we get into that. Just dropped today, this is on the 22nd here, that Karl Anderson will finally come back to defend his never open weight title. So Scott, hunger strikes around the world can come to an end. I can sleep, shower again. I can eat. This is a saga that has captivated the world like none other, and we can finally just have this damn match and be done with this stuff. So they worked out something apparently. So Karl Anderson is coming back on the December 14th New Japan show. That is the night of the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Finals, the Real World Tag League for the heavyweight tournament. Both of those tournaments going to end in Sendai at the Sun Plaza on December 14th. And apparently he's going to defend the never open weight title. We assume he's going to drop it unless they're really going to surprise us and put us through all this again. But they have not said specifically who. We're assuming it's Hikuleo. That's been the story the entire time. Maybe they're just finalizing Hikuleo's schedule, but I finally going to get this whole thing done and out of the way, and then he can go back to WWE.
It's stunning how long it's lasted.
It really is.
It wasn't worth the struggle. It wasn't. None of this was worth the struggle. They could have just took the title off of him. No one would have cared. But thank God there's a final end date, and it's not Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, it would have been interesting if it were Wrestle Kingdom, just because we would have had AEW, WWE, Stardom, and New Japan talent all in the same show. But as it turns out, it'll be on December 14th. And that could probably be him dropping the title, most likely, unless something else has been worked out. And I kind of doubt that. I think this is probably the end of it. I know they wanted to put it on Hikuleo and make him the champion and give him a big push out of the gate. And this might be their chance to finally do it. But it seems like this has gone on longer than it certainly needed to.
What a weird choice to make all this happen. It's not like they were trying to get the belt on like Shota Umino or something. They're trying to get it on Hikuleo, right? It's like Hikuleo has a ceiling.
Well, he's a monster that seems to be getting a connection with the crowd, and he can be like a monster, but he's very tall. He's physically imposing, and he has improved a lot. And they do seem to believe in the guy. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of things going on with. Ren Narita is tied up with this TV title. I'm interested to see what Shota ends up doing at Wrestle Kingdom now. But now that he's not going in with the U.S. title, because we'll get to all that too. I kind of thought maybe he might possibly win the thing or upset him, just because Ospreay's at a level where he doesn't need the belt.
Right, he can
but
have a match anyways.
but yeah, which he certainly will. I mean, what's going to happen at Wrestle Kingdom needs nothing else other than the two guys that are going to be in the ring. So, but yeah, interesting choices. But there you go. So that saga is coming to an end. We just heard about that today. So, all right, you ready to talk about this historic crossover show?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So it began with a Young Lions match, and this was the LA Dojo team of this was Clark Connors, Alex Coughlin, Gabriel Kidd, and Kevin Knight against Yuto Nakashima, Ryohei Oiwa, Kosei Fujita, and the debuting Oscar Luibi. And his last name is pronounced differently depending on which show you're watching so far. Luebi, even Chris Charlton is struggling a little bit with getting the correct pronunciation. I'm sure he will, but in the last couple of shows, it's been a little different each time. But Oscar is a very tall man. He is from Hamburg, Germany. He trained actually in New Zealand in the Fale dojo until the pandemic, and then kept working out, though. And now he's in Japan in the dojo there in Tokyo, working with Yuji Nagata. And, he didn't do a whole lot in this match. He did a couple of things. What he did looked fine, but this was kind of easing him into things. The most important thing from this one, Scott, is that we had a group of people here. Kidd and Coughlin are a tag team in the tag team tournaments. Kevin Knight is teaming with Kushida. Clark Connors is teaming up with Ryusuke Taguchi. So, this was a matter of a squash, basically. This is as close to New Japan gets as a squash. They ran the table on these guys here just to kind of put over the guys that are going to be in the tournament coming up.
Yeah, I felt like the LA Dojo showcase, which was cool to see. I think all four of the LA Dojo guys have a lot of potential. I think Clark has done a really good job, especially with the opportunities he's had this year.
Yeah.
It's good to see Gabe Kidd back and actually in Japan now. I know he's had a tough couple of years, really.
Yeah.
But he's a very talented guy. Kevin Knight is I think this guy is going to be a superstar. Every time I watch him wrestle, even in the first tag league match he had with Kushida, he just jumped off the page, literally and figuratively. And Alex Coughlin, I mean, this guy looks like $1 million. I like that him and Gabe Kidd are together. I think that's going to be a lot of fun to see those two and what they can do because, I'll say tag league it's not wide open because I think the winner's kind of predictable, but in terms of quality of matches and who can be, an MVP type, that team's going to show a lot, I think. They're not going to be high on the cards, but they're going to show a lot.
Knight's athleticism is spectacular because Luibi, like I mentioned, is very tall. I'm not sure of his exact type. He's got to be like 6'4" or 5" or something like that. Knight absolutely drop kicked this guy in the forehead.
His drop kick's incredible.
Yeah, and then at one point, Alex Coughlin was holding Luibi up, and he still drop kicked the guy in either the head or the upper chest. Yeah. I mean, the springs on this guy is incredible, and so he looked very, very impressive. You mentioned Connors making the most of it. I totally agree. So good things coming out of that LA dojo there. Shibata seems to really be working with these guys very, very well, and of course, these guys are ahead in their overall career of Nakashima, Oiwa, Fujita, Luibi. So this went exactly like it should be. And it was supposed to show off guys that are going to be in the tournament. So,
yeah.
Next one, we had the Rambo. And, these things, the New Japan Rambos at Wrestle Kingdom are to be tolerated. They're to be tolerated. And what you hope is that there's somebody cool as a surprise in it. And it's more of a, oh, wow, that guy, like they brought back, I'm trying to think of the guy's
Shima was in it this year.
Shima was in, yeah. We've had Fujinami in these things. We've had over the years. We've had guys like that, like legends that come back. They're like 60 years old and kind of roll under the bottom rope and do a couple things. That's like the highlight of the New Japan. This is a different Rambo. This was 15 women, and this was entertaining as hell. And we had Mirai go wire to wire to win the thing. But there were a lot of little Easter eggs throughout the show, throughout the match that I really enjoyed. What were your thoughts on this one? Was this supposed to be a little push for Mirai? Like, what are your thoughts on having her go wire to wire?
They are doing everything in their power to show how special Mirai is to this future. I mean, it's her year. She debuted on the very first show of Stardom this year. She's won the Cinderella tournament. She's challenged for the World and Wonder titles this year. She had a great 5-star. She has had tag title opportunities, artist title opportunities. They're not hiding her abilities and where they think she's going to go. So seeing her come out first, I was like, are they gonna do it? Are they gonna do this? And then they did. I thought it's just such a smart little way to push someone, really, right? Because you watch the Ramble, you don't think much of it going into it. You're like, oh, this is a good spot for everyone on the card. And I thought there was some really fun spots, like the Saki Kashima pinned like 7 people in a row in the middle.
She went on a tear at the end. It was
like there were pins happening when they were trying to watch who was coming down.
Yeah.
And you just hear in the ring 1, 2. I was like, whoa, what is happening? So that was great, but showcasing and showing the world, hey, this is our next prize piece of the puzzle here. She's going to be in the conversations with the Utamis and the Mayus, and she's going to be in that main event picture for years to come. And they did her justice here.
Just as a fan, it's amazing that she has been wrestling on shows for less than a year. That's crazy. Like, she is so far beyond what you would think of from a rookie.
She did come from TJPW.
Okay, pardon me. Okay,
which of course is the promotion for those who don't know, the promotion that works the AEW.
Okay, pardon me, I had that wrong, man.
But to be fair, you don't really expect someone to just come in. She didn't wrestle that long. She wrestled very few years. Okay. She was never in a prominent position there. So like, this is still all very unique that, she comes right over and they make her such a big deal. So, I mean, she is a rookie to Stardom. She's a rookie to a lot of people. They didn't necessarily know who she was until she took a big name. Unless you followed TJPW deeply, you had no idea. The top few, and she was not part of that.
Okay, so I had that wrong. Thanks for straightening me out on that one. So the Marai's not a rookie, but she's just new-ish to Stardom right there. So one thing I wanted to mention out here, there was highlights for me was the 3 sisters there. You have Hanan, Hina, and Rina, all in different factions, which is interesting on its own. Very young. I think, what is it? Hanan is 18, and her sisters are a couple of years younger. And they had a spot there where they were all in the ring at the same time. They threw stereo judo throws. They did that all at the same time, and then the family, basically that family of sisters, cleared the whole ring and then turned on each other and fought amongst themselves, which might be the most realistic thing I've seen in wrestling this entire month. It was like, it just reminds me of Thanksgiving coming up, doesn't it? Just stick together with everybody else and then fight fiercely among each other. That's been perfect. But yeah, they're all of them are pretty talented. That was fun. I just enjoyed that little spot there. So
their dynamic is so much fun. Those, if you watch this show, if you're trying to like get into Stardom, those are the 3 like future names to watch that are still very, very young. Like you said, Hanan's the oldest at 18 years old, so it's not it's not like they're going to be in prominent. Well, Hanan will, but the other 2 won't be in prominent positions for another couple of years. But they're still very talented at their age, and it's only the beginning. But yeah, their sister dynamic is always a blast because anytime they are teaming or going against each other, they just can't stand each other. It's family.
It's true to life. Yeah, nothing could be truer. So those were technically pre-show matches. So then we went on to the main card right here, and it opened up with an 8-man tag. There were a lot of matches on this show that were designed to get a lot of people on the card. This, I think, was definitely one of those. They're like, we're going to get an all skate going here. It's 7,102 people showed up for this thing at Ariake Arena, and so big crowd and a crowd that was into this. You never really know with a joint promoted show what you're going to get as far as the crowd goes, but there weren't dead spots. Like the New Japan people were, and that's culturally in Japan, people aren't going to like get up and leave. That's just not the way things happen there. But I think everyone was into everything here. And this match here was a showcase basically for Lio Rush and Yo, who are going a new tag team. Lio Rush is pretty new to fairly new to New Japan, hasn't done a lot of matches over there with them. And so the idea was to show him off. And of course, he's a tremendous athlete when his head is in the right spot. And this is another person that tends to leave promotions faster than intended. But hopefully he will make it through this tour. But he and Yo teamed with Yoshihashi and Tomohiro Ishii. They beat the House of Torture. This was really about showing off Yo and Lio Rush, and they look good. And, Tomohiro Ishii had a big rally in the middle that was entertaining as he had the House of Torture guys bouncing off each other mostly. But, this is your basic get 8 guys on the show and put the new guy over type of psychology. It was good.
Never did I think I was going to say that Lio Rush is everything that Yo needed. But it felt that way. I mean, I was like, is this the Yo I've been watching for the past 3 years? It feels like he has life again.
Yeah.
And I like Yo. That's the funny thing. Like, I know a lot of people are hit or miss with Yo and his personality. I think he's a good wrestler. But he's a better tag team wrestler. And as we know from his time with Show, of course, I think these two are going to become a really, really good tag team. They're one of my favorites to watch for this upcoming, or we're in the middle of it, I guess now, but for the Junior Tag League, it's them and the Impact guys that I'm actually looking forward to the most. Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I think Leo, he did like 4 things maybe in this match, but they all look good. They all look crisp. I'll be shocked if he doesn't get over in Japan. He's so unique. He's so talented. And I've always felt Japan will be the one that keeps him going because it's the one he's been with this whole time since leaving WWE. But like, I know he's been in and out of wrestling about 2 or 3 times. I know the last one was actually a really bad injury that kept him out. But there's something about him. I need him to be in that Best of Super Juniors because I think he can do some special stuff with the top guys there.
Yeah, definitely. You think about the guys that are going to be in that 4-way for the junior heavyweight title at Wrestle Kingdom: Hiromu Takahashi, El Desperado, Master Wato, and excuse me, and Ishimori, the champion. Jeez. A lot of names. But those 4, I mean, Lio Rush and any of them. Okay, I'm in. I'll take my money. I'm good.
I like that you like Wato because I do too. I know some people are still like waiting on him, but I think he's been really showing his improvement.
I think he's stepping up, and I think he understands that if he shines in this match with these 3 guys, that he can really elevate himself because he's the one. The other 3 are made men. No matter what happens on this one, they're still stars. Wato, I think, understands that he can become one by hanging with these 3. And I think he's done it. I think he's done it as this is built up. I mean, that random tag match where they had the pick your poisonous partners match. He was fabulous in that, and they put him over and they seem serious about it. I think he's coming along.
I do too.
Up next, Queen's Quest against Donna Del Mondo. This was fantastic. So we had Saya Kamitani, Azumi, and Lady C against Hemika, Tekla, and Mai Sakurai. Now, of course, we had Mai Sakurai. We have My Fair Lady, which is a mixed tag team. What I mean by mixed is that we're from different factions. Lady C and Sakurai in the Goddess of Stardom tag team tournament. Scott, not going real well for them. They're not getting along great. So
no, they're not.
this is not panning out how either of them thought. But here they got to finally take out their frustration on one another. Had a very entertaining 6-woman tag here. Hemika with the double Argentine backbreakers had 2 women up. That woman is strong. Saya and May working together well. That was a highlight. Of course, Saya works well with just about everybody. And I tell you what, there was the chemistry between Tekla and Azumi was pretty good. I enjoyed that stuff. What'd you think of this one?
This is when I sat there. I was like, wow, Stardom's really gonna maybe outclass a lot of this, these separate New Japan matches. Because as someone that watches every Stardom show, I'm like, oh, it's Lady C and Mai Sakurai, but they were going, so I was like, oh, okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's Lady C and Mai Sakurai. They know the spot. They know how important this is. This is actually Stardom's biggest attendance show ever.
Wow, okay.
So the second is now Yuzuki Akawa's retirement show, which was like 5,500, I think.
For good reason,
Yeah, of course. So seeing this, and they saw the crowd. They know what's up. There's nothing more stoppable though than Saya Kamitani in a New Japan ring. She's undefeated. She can't lose because they know, hey, if she does a Phoenix Splash or a 450, that's cool, and people want to see that.
That's true.
So that is the funny thing. I think it was Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton. I listened to. I was back and forth on the commentary teams all night, but I did listen to them for this one, and they said, Sai Kamitani's undefeated when we call her matches, so we should maybe she wants us to call all of her matches. So like, yeah, she don't lose much anyways. But yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's
she is
true.
undefeated. I thought she looked great in this. And as did Azumi and Tekla. I like that you pointed them out. These showcased a little bit of that high speed that is really the major difference between New Japan and Stardom.
Yeah, yes, yeah. It's the pace, and it is the pace for sure. And we also saw the whole thing with Saya. They mentioned she had just come off the night before a 30-minute draw with Kairi for that Wonder of Stardom title, that white belt that Kamitani carries for Queens under the Queen's Quest banner there. And to go to a 30-minute draw and then come up with some fun stuff here, well done. And it was definitely worth mentioning. I'm glad Chris and Kevin mentioned it, just because it's worth noting that they had just come off of a strong main event and then had another strong showing here. So big weekend for her. Very
big weekend. Yeah, that's if anyone wants to check out that 30-minute match now on Stardom World, just saying, came out today.
Good. All right, good. I'm definitely going to check that one out. I've been catching up on the tag team tournament as best I can. So plus the World Cup's going on. I'm not going to sleep until January.
I know there's so much going on.
So we had next one. Now this was the match, Scott. I'll tell you this. I was looking forward to this match as much as anything on this card.
Wow.
And it was so fascinated by these matchups. And this is the first mixed tag ever for New Japan and Stardom. So this is historic in this way. But this was a man who is an unabashed and unashamed Stardom mark, as he calls himself, basically. Filthy Tom Lawler, who was thrilled beyond measure to be in this match. You could see it the whole time. Teaming with Shuri, the World of Stardom champion, and they were facing Zack Sabre Julia, which is my favorite tag team name now. But Zack Sabre Jr. and Julia, who are perfectly matched. I mean, these two teams made so much sense, and they had some entertaining stuff in here. What did you think of this one overall? Because of course, the tease here is that Julia, who had won the 5-star Grand Prix, will be challenging Shuri at Sumo Hall in one of the biggest matches of the year and one of the biggest events of the year, December 29th. So there's a lot of subtext to this one besides just having MMA against submission fighting. There's a lot of layers to this match.
Yeah, it's hard not to love every bit of this match. This was just so much fun because Tom, I know we all know his love for Stardom, right?
Right.
I did an interview with him actually for Fightful, and we talked about like his actual New Japan stuff. And then the moment I brought up Stardom, it was like a switch flipped. And I was like, so you're just like me. And he was talking about the match that he was having and how much he loves it, and Shuri's his favorite wrestler in the world. So it's just so cool to see him get to team with her. And they have the UFC backgrounds. There's a lot of connections there.
Yep.
The only shame is that he couldn't get the win, right? He got pinned by Zach, as I expected, but you had a little bit of everything. We saw that, despite being mixed tags, they were going to get physical a bit, both between the women and men, which, got more and more physical as the night went on.
We're going to talk about that.
But I thought this was so entertaining. I thought just both teams worked so well together. My favorite part was when Tom was trying to protect Shuri, and then Shuri and Julia started beating him up. I thought that was perfect.
Poor guy can't win for losing, I tell you. That was
he was probably, honestly, it was probably like his favorite part of the match.
It was almost certainly his idea. I'm thinking he's the one that came up with that spot. He's like, please, can we do this? I just want to do this. I don't care when you do the rest of the match.
Exactly.
So they had some things. Let's talk about some of the stuff they had in here. The Zach and Lawler got into a double heel hook, which rolled all the way out of the ring and up the aisle. I think if the women didn't stop them, they might have rolled all the way over to Osaka. But what ended up was Sherry picking up Julia and slamming her on top of Sabre. Then there was a whole bunch of stuff on the outside. Like you mentioned, Tom was having the time of his life. He tried to break up Julia and Shuri, and they both turned on him and attacked him and knocked him around. Both of them working together like they were back with Donna Del Mundo in the pre-God's Eye days. So that was, and then of course they turned back on each other. Double Cobra twists. That was kind of a fun spot right there. They did that. Yeah, and in the end, it's the only finish you could really have. Of course, you're going to protect both the women in this one because they're main eventing the biggest show. And then Lawler just isn't as high up on the card as Zach. So this is the only way it could have gone. It was a pinfall scramble, and he won it. But now that we're here at this point, though, Scott, let's talk about this one. There it is right there for the World of Stardom Championship. So these two women are going to clash in that main event at Sumo Hall. Last time you were on here, you called the 5-star Grand Prix correctly. You felt that this was Julia's time. Is Julia going all the way with this? Is it Julia's time to win this thing and carry the red belt going forward? What do you think is going to happen on the 29th?
Oh yeah, it's her time. It couldn't be more her time. She came into Stardom at the end of 2019, and since that moment, it's been like, all right, so when is she getting that title? It wasn't a matter if, it was a matter of when. She's been through a lot of ups and downs story-wise, but this is the one. This is the one. Look at, I don't know how you see that picture and think of anything other than, I need to see this. I need to see these two. They're gonna destroy each other. They're gonna sell it perfectly. It's Julia's title. It's time.
These two hit a little harder than most, and their matches look different than other people in Stardom right there. They are within Stardom as far as the working style goes. It's not something that's so far apart. The way Rousey looks weird in WWE and a lot of stuff, but it's within Stardom. But it's a different level of stiffness. There's a little bit more steam on their strikes and things. I noticed it right away once I got the Stardom World subscription. I just want to see these two fight, and I'm totally in for it. And I'm going to be there on the 29th watching. And I feel like if I'm okay with either one winning, but what you say about the story, the overall with Julia, and of course there's so much history because Shuri's faction God's Eye is a breakaway from Donna Del Mundo, which is Julia's group, so they've got all that history. Combined with the submission versus MMA, and then this has been beautifully built.
Yeah, they at the final of the 5-star Grand Prix, I wrote an article about it after. Like they summarized Julia's entire journey in one night. And that's really hard to do. But they brought, she went to a draw with Suzuki, who of course is was her sister figure from Ice Ribbon, where she previously was before coming to Stardom. Julia had left, so she pretty much left Suzu in the dust, and that was the story in that match. And then Julia goes on to the final, faces Tam Nakano, her greatest enemy, and her biggest loss was against Tam Nakano, right? She shaves her head, all that. She's been building herself back up since then. And when she finally gets back to the top, who she beat? Tam Nakano. It's perfect. And now she's got to beat her longtime friend, now turned foe, her former tag team partner. Shuri was brought in to be the number 2 to Julia. And Julia's kind of watched Shuri rise above her out of nowhere. And it's perfect. If people need to see what these two are capable of, they already had a match this year, Stardom World Climax Night 1. Go check that out. You want to see a hint of what they're going to do? That was just the beginning. This is going to be a whole different ball game on December 29th. But yeah, there's a special story going here, and I thought they were able to tell that in this tag match while also including the fun of having Tom and Zach in there with them.
It's really been a terrific build, like you mentioned. I know this is a New Japan show, speaking of strong style, but it's worth mentioning because someone's going to carry that red belt and be that champion right there. But the other person, could absolutely be part of the whole IWGP women's title picture. These are all like top level women. It's worth spending the time to understand their stories, to understand where they come from, because I think that this batch, that when we're going to talk about more of them in the next match, are people that you're going to be seeing on New Japan shows, and not only in Rambos, but in title matches, key things, mixed tags. It's worth understanding what's going on with them right there. So it should be a good one on December 29th.
I wouldn't be shocked if Shuri. This is something I've been thinking about. If Shuri challenges Kairi at Dominion, I kind of felt like that'll be the target. Feels like an obvious one. Shuri's very well known for her UFC days, plus that match with Utami that pretty much put Stardom into another level, and she's been champion now for a year. So it's like that'd be a pretty good one for the second biggest New Japan show of the year.
Absolutely, especially because in Japan she's very, very well known. You don't have that. You don't have the thing where it's like where you're in California. Well, do they know who she is? They know who she is. Exactly. So up next was I had a blast at this next match. I love this. I just had so much fun here. So this was it's an odd mix, right? It's because you had Suzuki-gun on each side, and then you had very different tag teams, but it probably either the top or close to the top tag team rivalry in Stardom. So you had Taichi and Yoshinobu Kanemaru teaming with Tam Nakano and Natsupoi from the Cosmic Angels. And then you had and whether that's Meltier is their team name. Got that right, I think. On the other side was a wonderful grouping of El Desperado, who I love. I'm a big fan of that guy. I just think he's so talented. Doki, who I think is underrated. And then you have I think the best heel attitude in Stardom, right? Like I love Momo Watanabe's just her little sneer that she has. She walks around with that belt and this kind of snot-nosed attitude. You just want to see someone smack the hell out of her. And then one of the most talented human beings in the entire company is Starlight Kid. And there's so much good stuff here. And this one was packed with content. It was a lot of fun. And again, another one with layers. You had Desperado and Starlight Kid going as far as to having half and half masks in this.
Those are so cool.
Very cool. I want one of those. I hope they market those. I would absolutely get one. And now we were going to go again. These are these fun mixed tags, and in the end, it was Taichi getting the Black Mephisto on Doki. Kind of besides the point on this one. We're going to talk about some of the stuff in the match, but I want to talk about Meltier because as somebody that's watching this, Natsupoi, now I can't believe that this woman wasn't born a Cosmic Angel. So
right?
She has not been a Cosmic Angel that long, which blows my friggin' mind. She's the most Cosmic Angel-y of all the Cosmic Angels, including Nakano, who founded the group.
Yes, exactly. I've tweeted since the first time she appeared with the group that Natsupoi is the Cosmic Angel. Like that, it's her. Like the group is her, and she wasn't part of it until 6 months ago, 5 months, not even 6. That's crazy. But I'm so happy that you saw that because, the turn, the way they did it's like whatever. She wanted to go with Tam, but it's been the perfect switch.
Oh yeah.
There's never been a better switch in factions in terms of fit than Natsupoi going to that group, and Natsupoi is going to be taking over that group, I'm sure, down the line when and if Tam moves on. Tam's hinted in the past that she could be coming up on her retirement sooner rather than later, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But Natsupoi is like the next megastar. It kind of feels like. And they build up a lot of megastars for themselves. Like that's what Stardom does.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I see her in this ring and I see Starlight Kid. I'm like, feels like a main event. Feels like a main event the moment you want it. They already have a great high speed title rivalry, but that can be a wonder match. That can be a world title match. No one's gonna bat an eye. Natsupoi is the perfect Cosmic Angel though. And then Starlight Kid's she's the next ace in my opinion. You have Utami who's like the Okada, I guess, but like when you're looking for ace, like who's going to replace Mayu Utani in that respect? Sorry, my phone's ringing. It's Starlight Kid. It feels so natural. She's the most popular star in Stardom as well.
which is interesting because she's part of Oedo Tai, which is the heel faction, but she still comes off as likable, and she reminds me of early Hiromu Takahashi. Just like watching her, the charisma and the work and everything there, you just can't take your eyes off them when they're in the ring, and that was what Hiromu was like. And you realize, oh, this is very, very special, and is going straight to the top and staying there. And I think that's what's happening with Starlight. So we had the whole thing with the Natsupoi and Tam have their choreographed, and they sing their own entrance music, and they have their choreography and their lip syncing, and of course Taichi, who is so he was out there with them, and they had this nice entry. Kanemaru wasn't having it; he just headed right to the ring. But Dad doesn't want to play, but that's okay. And but once this match got going, it was 100 miles an hour. It was a blast. Yeah. I mean, some highlights: Yoshinobu Kanemaru falls out of the ring and is set upon by Oedo Tai. And
that was awesome.
Just battered by 9 different people. He didn't know whether he was coming or going for a second there. And later on, there was just chaos. I mean, this was all over the place. Everyone was diving everywhere, jumping on everything. So much fun. And this went 12 minutes, and it felt like 3. It was just over. It felt like it was over in a heartbeat. It went 12 minutes. At one point, there was a sequence where Kenta Sato, who basically was standing in a corner wondering who the hell was legal like the rest of us, got thrown to the ground. Momo got the bat out. She tried to hit somebody with the bat. I don't remember which one it was. I think it was Natsupoi, right?
Yeah.
Well, just then we got the double Suntory surprises where Kanemaru and Natsupoi had the mouthfuls of whiskey, and they spit him in the face, blinding everybody. That was what led to the pinfall. Natsupoi also emotes better than anyone in the company, maybe with Mayu Iwatani, and just her reaction to having the fake with the iced tea that they use as the whiskey, I think.
Yeah.
But you would have thought that poor girl accidentally swallowed a mouthful of whiskey. She's so funny, but she can turn it on the other direction too. Like when she wrestles Donna Del Mundo, she looks emotionally conflicted. Yeah. She just has this kind of she can just project with her facial expressions better than anybody. But anyway, the double Suntory surprises is what the big spot here was, that they did that, and they got the win there. So it was Tam and Natsupoi getting the victory. But a lot of fun. I mean, this is the very talented people in a good match.
Yeah, Natsupoi. This is gonna anger some Stardom fans, but Natsupoi does Tam better than Tam does Tam. And what I mean by that is the expressions, the storytelling. Like, she doesn't go too over the top, but at the same time, it's like you know what she's feeling just by her look. And the whiskey thing was great when she did that, because they were practicing that, because like Kanemaru was like here. Like in their practice, and she hated it, but I'm so happy that they used that in the match, because it's like the training worked even though she hated it. And it was perfect. It was so funny. I think she made a lot of fans on the show, and at least I hope so.
And it's another example. We mentioned Tom Lawler there, but all of the guys look like they were having a blast with this too, and the women were too. I mean, but like I said, like the guys, I was worried that some of these guys would phone this in. I was worried about that going into the show. That didn't happen at all. You could tell that Desperado was having a blast, like wearing like working with Starlight, and they kept saying in the English commentary that was like, geez, they could be brother and sister with the way this is going. Watanabe's fabulous with that. Like I said, her attitude, her just heel attitude.
Her kicking the crap out of Kanemaru was great.
Just didn't care. Gave no shits. And Kanemaru just looking incredulous, just like, what is happening to me? So everybody was good. So that was a lot of good. Now the next one I'm conflicted about. It's Hiroshi Tanahashi. Yeah, it's Hiroshi Tanahashi and Utami Hayashida. Both, like you mentioned, fantastic. You compared Hayashida to Okada. Hiroshi Tanahashi is working his way toward Mount Rushmore for a lot of people. And then you have Hiroki Goto and Micah, who are the bulls, the straight ahead, tough folks right there. So the tag teams make a lot of sense in this one. And I could have done without Hiroshi Tanahashi smacking Micah across the face with a slap. Just could have done without it. Just could have done without it. And here's my thought, and maybe I'm old, maybe I'm just, and this is possible. Like I could be totally wrong and out of touch on this one, but in the context of a wrestling match, if he did a wrestling move, like for instance, if she went to kick him, and by wrestler's instinct, if you want to go with that pro wrestling logic, he grabs her legs and dragon screws her because that's what he does, right? I would have been all right with that a little bit because they attacked the guys first. You know, they did all that kind of stuff, and I know equality and things, but man. Hiroshi Tanahashi is the ultimate take a picture with your kids babyface.
Yeah, I get that.
During the pandemic, he's going up and down the aisles, like pointing at kids and women in the crowd and doing the hug, you know, the air hug and the whole thing. And what did those people see that guy do? Smack a woman across the face, slap her. And the slap bothered me the most because it's so fucking domestic violence-y. And I know even in pro wrestling, the slap across the face is a humiliation thing.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm just not thrilled with the ultimate babyface doing a humiliation move on a female. And maybe I'm old, I admit. I didn't have a problem with the wrestling moves. Like I said, if he had done a dragon screw, that's within the concept of pro wrestling. But to see the ultimate good guy take a couple of forearms from a woman and then have him just dismiss her by slapping her across the face, I thought that was tone deaf. Maybe that's just... I don't know, but the rest of the match was good. I like that he gave it to her back by having Micah do the back suplex on it, which looked great. Goto ended up taking a sling blade, so there was some justice there, and that hijack bomb looks fantastic. That finisher that shit does, which is basically a spinning splash mountain, and that's not easy to do. I don't know. Talk me out of it. Am I wrong?
It was actually my favorite mixed tag of the night.
Really? Oh boy.
Yeah. So I know a lot of Stardom people that actually loved that because because that's a Tanahashi move. If it wasn't a Tanahashi move and it was just a slap, I think then I'm total. But I know that I know that's a Tanahashi thing. You know, he's getting hit. Then out of desperation, he hits the bop. So to me, that was what he was doing. Out of desperation, he was like, all right. But I get from your sense too. It's like, well, Tanahashi's the ultimate babyface. He's the ultimate good guy. So just, you know, if you're not thinking about it in a context and you just see that, you're like, oh, wow, why would she? Because I also agree, like Dragon Screw or something like that would have been more fitting, right? Because that's even more Tanahashi.
It's the most Tanahashi thing there,
yeah. So I get that, and I definitely would have made that change. I didn't mind it, but because Micah was able to come back and do it, right? She got the slam, and you know, Tanahashi's been very open. He's actually like one of the key people, I think, behind this happening. It sounds like that. Anytime he talks about it, he wants a match with Utami, he said, which you know is like crazy. But
I don't think we're gonna see that one. But
no, I don't think so either. But I like them teaming, and those two are probably the reason I like this match so much. It's just because like you see them both together. It's like, wow, this is like we've seen stars throughout this show. You know, we've seen wrestling stars throughout this show for sure, but these two together is just like, you know, making their entrance and the presence, and you know, standing in the ring with the rose, and you know, the way they finished it with Utami getting the pin, which I thought was the key part of it all. Yeah, because in the other mixed tags, it was just, you know, Taichi pinning Doki and Zach pinning Tom Lawler, but Utami got the pin. Utami's music played to end the match, and it's like, that, you know, I like that. As a Stardom fan, I like to see that. You know, Tanahashi's willing to, he doesn't need the moment. He's already, like you said, he's on Mount Rushmore. He's already considered one of, if not the greatest of all time. He doesn't need that. But Utami's, you know, she's the one working up to that now in Stardom. And what she's done this year is just incredible. If, you know, people want to see what she's doing, watch her match with Shuri from Gold Rush. To me, it's their second best match. Which is saying
that says a lot. Yeah.
Just behind the you know, the big one, which, you know, people obviously sing praises for, including myself. But like, look at this picture. Look at this picture. Look how cool they are. Like it's just so cool. But I understand where you came from. I enjoyed all the dynamics. You know, that part was, I remember like when I saw it, I was like, oh, when they did the slap. I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting the dragon screw or something. That's what I was expecting. Like in their interactions. So I totally get where you're coming from, but her doing the sling blades, Tommy doing the sling blade was my favorite part of the match because like she's never done it before, and like she sent herself, so she's like, she pulled him down. But they were very giving. I think that's what I like the most. Like, New Japan wrestlers, they don't have to do this.
Yeah, right? and I didn't get up and walk out. Like it wasn't the thing. The rest of the match was fine, and it went 9:36 and things, but it was fine. And
if it were I don't evil, know, you wouldn't have. It would be like, that makes sense.
Why have Tanahashi do it? I also understand that this team is special, and I get what you're saying about where Utami and Hiroshi are as far as that goes. It's almost in the area of, for my generation of guys, like if Misawa teamed with Manami Toyota or something like, just like, holy crap, these two are standing next to each other. And so it was cool. And Goto and Micah did very well, by the way. We've been talking about those two. Goto and Micah were terrific in this as well. Great. So, and I'm kind of
story of Goto's career right there.
Boy, isn't it though? Boy, you might have hit that right there. And a little bit Micah, maybe a little bit like Micah, who always seems to climb the mountain, but not quite.
Right? To feel like that. That's the funny thing. I tweeted out during the match. I was like, Utami has more world titles than Goto, and you should have seen the people. They're like, hey, whoa, hey now. I was like, I'm sorry.
Slow your roll, sir. But and they can't even say it's because there's all those belts in Stardom, because New Japan has them piled up high too. So it's not a belt thing. Oh man. So yeah. All right. Well, we'll move away from the mixed tags now, because the next match here was.
These next two matches killed me. I'm not gonna lie. I'm so tired at this point. I was like, why are these following the mixed tags?
These were in the wrong spot, and I think they knew it, because really. What we saw was the United Empire, and that was the Aussie Open, the junior tag champs of Francesco Akira and Gideon Gray, and TJP with Gideon Gray, getting a win over the LIJ team of Hiromu Takahashi, Sanada, Shingo Takagi, Naito, and Bushi. This was basically a showcase for Aussie Open, who are doing the heavyweight part of the tag team, and will be, I think, a big part of that tag team tournament. But this didn't really need to be here, and it didn't really. I don't think it added a hell of a lot. So the match was fine. It was to get Aussie Open early over, but this could have gone right next to the match that got Lio Rush over, and probably would have been in the correct spot on the card right here, because this did feel like a bit of a bumper, and the guys kind of worked. I mean, Gideon Gray probably worked harder than anybody else in this thing. And he took a comeback, and Naito even gave him, or he took a beating, and then Naito even gave him a comeback. So good day for him. But yeah, I mean, there it was a match, right?
Gotta get LIJ on the card. That is what this match was. Gotta get him on the card. I was sitting there, I was like, why didn't we just do Naito and Julia? That would have been sick. I was like, that would have been cool. And I love Zach and Julia, so I'm not really complaining here. But I was like, what? They should have, what they should have done? They should have done Desperado and Starlight Kid versus Azumi and Hiromu. That would have been the one I'd look.
Yeah. Well, this isn't going to be the last one of these.
Azumi wants to team with Ospreay, who's like her wrestling dad. So.
And I think a lot of people really want to team with those guys. I wanted to mention this too, by the way, because this picture cracks me up for one thing. But the other part of this was afterwards, and I wanted to mention the poor Taichi. I feel like he was jilted a little bit, because after the match, he kept going with Nakano and pointing back and forth like, "Hey, you and me, we're a team, we're a team, we're a team." Tam Nakano then looks at the camera and does the Naito thing.
Yeah,
so which just like, damn, oh, poor Taichi.
Yeah, you forgot to bring that part up, or I did. Is that's when he was doing the title thing. I was like, oh, so Tam's challenging for Wrestle Kingdom. Instantly, I that's what I thought. I ended up being right. But after I think the post matches, Taichi was like, hey, let's get some mixed tag titles going. I was like, man, you're really trying here. You're asking for more titles in this company. I don't think we need more. Let's work with the IWGP Women's title first. Call us back in 5 years.
we're still in the process of developing and establishing like 3 titles. I don't know if we just need to keep throwing more into this little thing. We're still trying to figure out what the TV title is. let's chill a little bit there. Slow the roll. Up next, though, we did have the Great Muta's Big Farewell, and this one was special because, of course, the thing you got to say about Kaiji Muto and the Great Muta and all that, he is doing farewell matches with half the companies on Earth, and he seems to get along with everyone, and that is not easy to do in a long career in pro wrestling. But Muta seems to be beloved by all, and he got to have his final New Japan match right here. He teamed with Kazuchika Okada and Toru Yano. They faced Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, and Aaron Henare. Look, Muta's body was shot 10 years ago, let alone now.
Yeah.
He can't do a whole lot, but he did his signature moves. He did that very fast elbow. It's not as fast as it used to be, but boy, I remember when I was about 14 years old and he came over with Gary Hart, and I had never seen anybody like him, and the way he moved, and it was so exciting. So to see one more time in a New Japan ring that movie, he did a dragon screw slowly, but he did it. And in the end, he did the big missed spot with Great-O-Khan, which is the only thing. This one was exactly what it should have been. It was everybody just kind of wrestling their way through it, and just kind of working a standard match, but setting up the all-time legend to do his key spots. And no more moonsaults from Kaiji Muto, but here he was able to do a couple of things, hit the mist, and walk out to his music. What more could you want from a Legend's final match?
Yeah, I mean, my one question, I was like, why is Okada here? Why is he not in a bigger match for me personally? Because, I was like, why didn't he just team with Utami? Like, that was the natural pairing. It's okay. It's fine. But it's funny because, someone's like, oh, you love Muta. I was like, no, I love Muto. In current day, well, I mean, I haven't seen a lot of old Muta, but current Muta, it's like, his matches are just for the mist, which is fine.
Yeah.
His matches in Noah are just for the mist usually. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, I like more than just the mist. But this was fun. This was fun because it was the farewell. It was and you knew this was what they were working to. And it's not like he pinned a New Japan star, right? Yeah. It was still Okada getting the win, so it was okay. Yeah. I had fun with it. And I think, like you said, it is incredible that he has all these great relationships with all these top companies, because Mr. Politic over there, you would think he wouldn't, but he's accomplished a lot, and I'm hopeful that New Japan's involved on that final farewell show for him overall, because it'd be a shame if they weren't in some form.
It's going to be fascinating to see how Shinsuke Nakamura works with him on January 1st, because like you said, doing any kind of a singles match with Muta, he can't really move. That's
dangerous. Well, Shinsuke has been in the retirement party for 6 years now.
Well, I think Shinsuke realized that really maybe his body wasn't going to hold up to too many more G1s.
I thought so too,
and I think
he didn't want to go with the dad role.
Yeah, and I think he just thought, well, I can go to WWE and I can do this match and do it for years and probably make more money. And I think it's just a matter of.
I don't fault him for that.
Yeah, you really can't, because I mean, I think he may have realized that like one more G1 and something's like surgery and I'm done. So.
Oh yeah, so hard hitting, but it's cool to see him back.
Yeah, definitely. But seeing. Yeah, and then like Muta's. This was, I think it was. He walks out to his own music. The mist, everything was fine. So, did what it was supposed to do. And we move on to the semifinal, and I'm really happy this was the semifinal here, because I think that if you're going to establish a new championship, make it the main event. But
though I was scared about the potential announcement at the end.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting, wasn't it? You're like, well, how are we going to do this? But I think they managed it well. Will Ospreay against Shota Umino. This went 23-30. And Will came out in Hayabusa gear, which I think is worth it. And, I mean, there you go. I mean, how cool is that?
I know people like Will Ospreay is like right there with the Young Bucks in the terms of people either love him or they hate him. There's no in between, and for very different reasons at some times. But when it comes to their wrestling, even this guy's one of, if not the best in the world. Let's stop acting like he's not. And that look, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I was like, man, I'm really happy that Shota's getting this match as his return match. Can't if he faced, you know, a Tanahashi or Okada, that's great, but in terms of what Ospreay's done this year, it's like, man, you can't get a better dance partner for your first match back in Japan.
Right. Right. And you're looking at a guy here that has made that U.S. title into something much, much bigger than it ever was. And some big names had held that thing before Will. I mean, he's not the first big star, but there's something very, very special about that championship now, which is, you know, the man makes the title, not the other way around. But he is one of the very best in the world. He showed it again here. He got permission from Hayabusa's daughter for the outfit. And, cool. You know, a lot of people, you know, there's a bit of a Hayabusa in a lot of the high flyers today, and certainly with Will. So these two are great together. It had some wonderful countering sequences where these guys would just throw moves at each other and had 100 ways to counter one another. It built beautifully. We got to the point of the Royal Quest 2 callback where they did that finish where the 12 to 6 elbows over and over again. Only this time Shota got to the ropes, then begged his father not to stop the match. Drama, beautiful. It just kept going after that, and they started hitting finishers on one another. You know, they had the Chelsea grin. He missed a hidden blade, and Shota got a near fall with the roll of the dice. Will survived a Death Rider. Shota survived a hidden blade. This thing was twists and turns. The crowd was into it all the way through. Finally, the Stormbreaker for the win. And what you're seeing here are two guys that had really great chemistry, understanding the high points from their previous match at Royal Quest 2, incorporating all that and turning it into something that's even an extra step beyond that. And I think I've said before, I think Shota Umino is going to headline Tokyo Domes in his career. Nothing in this match dissuaded me from that. He was not carried by Will Ospreay. He was working with him, not being carried by him. We have one of the best in the world today against someone I think we're going to be talking about as one of the best in the world in 3 to 4 years.
Yeah. Shooter had a lot of doubters after his excursion work, because this is what I always said about Shooter. In Rev Pro, he was hit or miss. Everywhere else, this guy's a megastar. Right? Like, you see, you know, he showed up in Strong. He was on Forbidden Door, of course. And I was like, this guy is a different man here. What is happening? And, you know, maybe it's the Moxley help. You know, being Moxley's little young boy at one time definitely has helped him long term. But this dude's his own guy, right? He is his own guy. You said he's going to main event Wrestle Kingdom. I'm willing to say he's the future ace of this company. The look, the presence, he gets it. He gets it. And he needed to show up on this show and deliver against an Ospreay, and that's what he did. And I'm really hopeful for him at Wrestle Kingdom this year. I hope he gets a big match. I mean, I look at Hiroshi Tanahashi and I say, man, if there was a match where you wanted Tanahashi to put a young guy over in a singles match, this is the year to do it. Tanahashi has nothing going on because, listen, him and Toru Yano aren't winning tag league. Right. And Shota has nothing going on now. So it just feels like a perfect match. I'd love to see them in any involvement, really. I think it's a perfect connection, and I'm just really excited to see what he does moving forward, because he has it all. He has it all. And in the match, my favorite part was, you know, it looked like Red Shoes was just gonna end the match, you know, because they're playing that story, and he's just like, no, I'm fighting through this, because he ended the match at Royal Quest, of course, which, you know, played right to this. And, you know, Ospreay ended up killing him, but you know, it was a valiant effort, and that's what we like to see. And, you know, I guess that's the Ospreay specialty, right? It's like, Ospreay's gonna bring it, and he's gonna bring it, and he's gonna bring it. He doesn't really care about your side of the story. He's just gonna keep bringing it because that's who he is. And this was a good loss for Shooter, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And this is something that I think will establish him. And he's a next generation Tanahashi. He just reminds me of Tanahashi a lot, and so much like him. He looks a lot like him. But he also has that connection with the fans. I mean, he's just likable. He's just inherently likable. And you can teach someone to be a good heel. I don't know if you can just teach people to be likable. And that's its own thing. And every generation we mentioned has the in New Japan has like the three musketeers. You had you had Shinya Hashimoto, Kaiji Muto, and Masahiro Chono. And then next generation of that was Nakamura and Tanahashi and Shibata. And I think we have two of the next ones with Umino and Ren Narita. The only question is, can Yota Tsuji be the third? Perhaps. He certainly looked. What was that?
I think it's going to be Uemura.
Yeah, but there's competition for that third spot. Yeah,
there is. The other one. It's good to have competition for that third spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there's a 4 pillars, well, New Japan isn't going to complain about that either, are they? No. But it's they have all the makings, and we've seen this after a couple of years of not being able to bring anybody new in, and the New Japan roster getting stale. It did. They were great workers, but we'd seen every combination. There's a lot of new talent right now. A lot of new talent, and really good new talent. It's exciting.
I talked about this with someone because we were talking about, they have these new pillars, and I was like, yeah, they have these new pillars, but you got to remember Will Ospreay is still like 28, 29, and Jay White's around the same age. It's like, I think they'll be okay. They'll be okay. And Okada's only what, 34?
Yeah. Okada's not old at all. That's not
scary.
at all.
It's really scary how good he is still. It just he has his prime years to come. They say wrestlers' prime is after the age of 35.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
So, Scott, there's only one thing left to talk about, my man. We're gonna have to do it.
What about Kenny?
Well, okay. Well, I was gonna bring that around, but yeah, okay. So after, I'm gonna have to do it here. I'm gonna put this little scroll down here at the bottom because I have to mention. Look, Jeremy Feinstein will be back next week to remind all of us that he was right. So we'll be listening to that. So he's very excited. We were talking about possibilities for Ospreay because, of course, Ospreay is going to be in a major match. We didn't know what the politics were with All Japan and AEW and whether this was going to be worked out. On January 4th, they have a big show in Washington State. Like, how is this going to pan out? Well, we found out it is worked out. It's been handled, and we will be seeing Kenny Omega against Will Ospreay at Wrestle Kingdom. And while I was skeptical as to whether or not it could be worked out, my fingers were crossed that something would come up. The alternative that I proposed was, if you can't get Omega, and if you get Omega for the love of God. Omega versus Ospreay is a super match, no matter what. But I was thinking, well, you could do the thing with where, he does something terrible to Shooter, and then it's Moxley coming back for revenge against him. And that would be the way, because Mox is going to take some time off after losing the title to MJF, blah, blah, blah. But if you can work out Kenny Omega, for the love of God, get this match in the ring, because it's perfect, right? I mean, this is exactly what this show needed, and it's at the perfect time. I mean, Kenny's going in as the babyface in this one because they miss him so much. He's fresh again. Yeah, Kenny is fresh again.
He's so fresh.
He's been gone so long. Everyone's ready to see him wrestle everybody again. I was ecstatic when his face came up there. I didn't think that they were going to be able to work it out. I thought Tony was going to keep him in Washington. Jeremy's going to remind me how right he was, and I will remind him how thrilled I am to that this worked out after all.
I feel really bad for Okada and Jay White.
Good luck, boys. I mean, if anyone can do it, those two can, because Jay's a big match performer now. Yeah. So that he might be able to do it, but
he is
tallest order of their career.
Yeah. I mean, so they announced that 7-match series, of course, in AEW, and I was going through the schedule. I was like, I see what date isn't on here. I see January 4th was skipped.
Left off the page, yes.
And then you got Tony Khan saying, well, we're not sending any top stars. It's like, okay. So you're gonna send your biggest star. Got it. And his face pops up there, and it's hard to just not absolutely have all the emotion in the world of excitement, because one, not even just for Okada, even though that'd be great too. Ospreay and Omega. It's just that Omega's back in New Japan. That's just special, right? Like, thank you, Omega could be facing anyone. It wouldn't matter. The added bonus is that it's against Will Ospreay, right? Like, that's the added bonus. And, I saw what you guys talked about with the Ospreay MJF situation. You don't have the problem anymore. They solved it. They said, we'll
Yeah.
bring back Kenny Omega to face him, and they're going to
Mhm.
cheer for him because they miss him so much. Which is the funny thing. I was thinking about that because the moment he showed up and everyone screamed, I was like, oh, well, if Omega was, if Ospreay was having that difficulty of playing the heel babyface and what people want to see, well, they brought in the guy that's going to be pure babyface, and I thought his promo was excellent.
Yes.
Him talking in both languages. That's a lot of the reason why he's so loved.
Yeah.
Is that he was willing to learn, and he was one of their staples. And even if this is a one-time thing, it's going to be special to see him back in that Wrestle Kingdom ring, in that New Japan ring, inside the Tokyo Dome. That's where he comes out to play. That's and like you said, he's fresh.
Yeah.
I was talking about this with people. I was like, he hasn't been fresh since the first Okada match.
Right.
Yeah. Like, that's crazy, but it's the truth. And man, he's gonna put on a show with Ospreay, and I cannot wait. Just as a fan.
And the result entirely depends on how much they can get Omega in the future, right? I mean, the result totally depends. If this is the one-off, then you probably have to put Will over in it. But if it's only a one-off, if it's not, then I think Kenny should be the one. I think Kenny should beat him because I think that's Will's mountain to climb now. If you can do that, that's Mount Everest for Will. And you have the match. and you if you can get Kenny going forward, because then there's so much you can do with Kenny. I mean, there's the whole Jay White situation, right? I mean, you can address that. Obviously, Okada and obviously Naito. Obviously,
one more time.
All these guys. I mean, and we haven't seen it in years. And and it's not that anyone has declined. If anything, Okada's better than he was then. And, and Kenny is we're seeing him come off of some injuries and things, but he looks pretty good. Yeah, I mean, it looks like everything's fine. So, yes, please, just let's do it. But obviously all that depends on what New Japan works out with Kenny, with Tony Khan, as far as how much he can be there. From a selfish standpoint, as a New Japan fan, I want all of it. I just want all these matchups again. It's just been so long.
I'm sure the deal is that if New Japan gets the first one, AEW gets one.
Okay.
In terms of Omega and Ospreay. Right, exactly. Or an Omega Okada main eventing Forbidden Door or something like that.
Twist my arm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, damn, darn it. Yeah, I have to watch those. What a shame.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting time that we're kind of opening back up. Omega going over there feels like the ultimate. All right, we're here. We're here now. Yeah. We're sending the big dogs back. Like, I know everyone wants Danielson to get over there, and people like that, but this is Kenny Omega.
and my underdog thing, which is kind of under the radar on this, I think Claudio Castagnoli is a perfect G1 contestant. Just once, 1 year. I want to see him against all those
guys. They
don't
use him enough that they can't let him go.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's true. But so anyway, that was an exciting moment. So we're gonna get that dream match. So, and it really is a dream match. It's something that I'm excited about. So now we can go on to that. Now we've moved on enough here. We got to go to this championship match here, the main event of this show. It closed the show and it earned it. This is Mayu Iwatani, Kairi to become the first IWGP Women's Champion, and this was a brilliant match by two incredible workers. And Scott, you're the Joshi expert, you're the Stardom expert, so I'm going to let you carry most of this thing. But I thought Chris Charlton and Kevin Kelly did a terrific job painting the picture. I don't know if you listened to their commentary on this one. Painting the picture of their past relationship, why these two have kind of revolved around each other early in the Stardom days, then the 5.5 years away. Mayu carrying the company herself, carrying it, but like being the top star in it, and then
in some ways,
and then Kairi coming back, and there being a little resentment there. They worked stiff, they worked hard. They had talk to us about this match and the way they worked this, and why the stories of these two's intertwining career played into this, because all of it was there.
Man, they couldn't have worked it better.
No,
like this is the best match they've ever had, and they've had some really great matches. That was Mayu beat Kairi for the Wonder of Stardom Championship before Kairi left for WWE, and that was their best until now. But this they knew. They knew the stage, they knew the importance, and they knew, because it's like picking up a glove and a baseball and just going out there and play catch. It's like nothing for them, right? It's like you did it once, you did it forever together. You're gonna do it again. In terms of history, these two are forever locked in. They are 2/3 of the Threedom group, the famous Stardom group, which also includes Io Shirai, of course. They are 3 of the 4 on a Stardom's Mount Rushmore. Like it's you can it's funny, the only person you can debate there is actually Kairi, because her career isn't that long.
You're right.
But it's hard to deny these 3, and they've hold titles together. They have a deep bond together as friends. But going into this match, Maya's like, I'm not really happy she's back. She left. She left. She left me. She left the Stardom. I had to be the one here to do it. And they played it. They played the perfect story, right? Like, and you got to think about it that way. What Mayu has done, and I talked about it earlier, but I'm going to give more in depth, is Mayu had to be there when Kairi left. Mayu had to be there when Io left. Mayu had to be there when, what happened with Yoshiko and Act Yasukawa long ago. Mayu had to be there when in 2020 she was the world champion at the time. Kagetsu retired, Arisa Ishiki had to retire, and of course the unfortunate passing of Hana Kimura. Mayu had to help pick up the slack there, and you lost 3 main eventers within a couple months for different reasons.
Oof.
And they had to build people back up, but you had the right person on top to help you do that. So, in Mayu's mind, it's like, okay, I did all that while you went off to WWE to do your little thing. And now you're back, and now you're trying to take my glory. I know. And she talked about how she's still the underdog, even if she has all these accomplishments, because, you're going to see Kairi on the billing and you're going to say, oh, well, she has to be the one that's winning. And she did win, of course. But I think, if someone wants to go back and see Mayu be in this role again, where she is the underdog, but she comes out aggressive and she comes out confident, you go check out that the second match she had with Takumi Iroha in 2020. Watch both of them because they're both phenomenal. But actually, you need to see the first to understand why the second's like that. But her coming out with that confidence made this match better, because she has 2 distinct main event roles. She has that confidence, and then she plays the super underdog who fights back that you could have seen against Alpha Female, for example, when they had that match. I don't remember the name of I don't remember what show it was. They've had so many shows as of late. I can't say it off the top of my head, but
very busy schedule.
Yeah, so when you get into this match, it's as even as possible, as we talked about, 50-50, and they're playing to that story where there's almost hatred, but deep down there's like a care for one another as well. And at the end of the day, all they want to do is walk out as IWGP Women's Champion. This is a very special moment, very special title to win, and that's what they did. They went out there and they kicked each other, and they, oh my god, the spinning back fists that Mayu took from Kairi.
Good Lord.
The 2 that she just fought through and just stood there, I was like, man, this is great. That she hits the super kick, and they trade big moves back and forth. Kairi hits the first insane elbow, and I'm just sitting there like, like so devastated that she kicks out. It's like, oh my god, there's life. Mayu hits her dragon suplex hold, which is her finisher. Kairi has foot on the rope.
She does that so well. That's incredible. Yeah. And like Zombie Mayu, I guess they call it like
That's
Zombie Mayu.
They were trying to make that a thing.
When she just stops, when she just, I don't even know. It's not that she no sells, because she's still
looks
selling.
Roughed up.
Yeah, she looks roughed up, but just has this screw you look on. You could just see it all building up inside of her. But she's not moving much. But you just And again, somebody that just has just an unusual charisma, almost unique, in just the way that she can project that. She's not moving, but you just sense all this storm building up in her. It's brilliant. And once it finally popped, like that dragon suplex she gets right there is beautiful looking move.
Yeah. And it came down to, Kairi's gonna have to catch her to beat her. That's what she did. She caught her with the spinning back fist, knocks her down like perfectly, hits that insane elbow, wins the match. I mean, I watched it back today. I don't really watch back matches that much anymore because I see them once and I'm like, all right, I know that I did that. I'll watch them back like months in advance, maybe. But I had to rewatch this because I was so emotional watching that. I was like, I need to watch this with my clear head, and I ended up being emotional at the end, anyways, because I was like, man, like they just told the perfect story. They told the perfect story in the perfect moment in the biggest match possible. That's you need to be among the best to do that, and they did that. I'm so happy they main evented. That was most important to me more than anything. It's like, yeah, I can be sad Mayu lost, but you know what? She main evented the biggest show in Stardom history against Kairi Sane, Kairi Hojo, against the biggest star Stardom has. I'll take that too. And ultimately, before I let you go, is that this match wasn't just about these two. It was about Stardom as a whole. They're no longer, the sister company of New Japan. No, they are their own promotion. Like, this is the promotion you should be watching. This is a promotion you should be paying attention to. And I hope that's what translates to Stardom Dream Queendom when it's on pay-per-view, right? I hope this made new fans, and I'm sure it did. I don't know how it couldn't have, right?
Right.
That's what I was like, this title, this match, this means more than just about these two wrestlers. It means a lot for Stardom, and they should be proud. They should be very proud of what they went out there and did. And the moment of them, embracing after the match was just like at the end of the day, they're just happy they got to share that moment together because they've been through it for years doing this, trying to get there.
You had a perfect story between two great workers, and that is what a main eventer is. And these two are absolute main eventers. And think about this. They had the best match on a show that had Will Ospreay, Kazuchika Okada, and Hiroshi Tanahashi on it, and Shuri and Julia. Not everyone was put in the position to have like the top, the match on the show, but there was no question after that you had watched the main event. There wasn't oh boy, what was the best match on that show was the US title. It was great. That was the main event. It felt like a main event. It was worked like a main event. And it was just something very special. And then for me, again, I've been following Stardom. I haven't been watching card by card until very recently. And I've seen a lot of matches, but I haven't just followed the story the way I've done since 5-Star.
Sure.
My favorite part at the end of this was knowing after the story they just told us there, we're going to see that again. This is going to come up again. Like Mayu can't let that rest. You can't she's not going to just snap her fingers and go, shit, I lost. That's not in her. She's got to come back on Kairi and go get that belt again someday. And it's going to be fantastic when it does. And it's going to be a little bit, though, because after the match, she did her big speech. It was this very emotional moment. And then she wondered, well, what now? I'm going to be defending this at the Tokyo Dome against who? Who could it be? And who comes out? But the leader of the Cosmic Angels, Tam Nakano, she comes out, and it's going to be, we added 2 more matches. There they are for the.
Those some pretty graphics.
Yeah, cool, huh? And there it is. Tam Nakano challenges Kairi at Wrestle Kingdom. What did you think of the choice of Tam to be the one at Wrestle Kingdom? That's another key spot here, and they decided to go with Tam. What are your thoughts on that?
I was shocked, honestly.
Shocked. Okay.
Because I was like, oh, it's got to be Utami. It's gonna be Utami. They already teased it, and instead, it was Tam. And the best part is they're doing Kairi versus Utami on Dream Queendom instead.
Yes, I was going to get to that. And that happened after this challenge. It was an interesting way of doing it, but
yeah. Which I was so shocked. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm happier that what I think is the bigger overall match is happening on a Stardom show because. Listen, you're trying to pack up that show to be your own Wrestle Kingdom. You don't want to give away what may be one of your biggest matches necessarily, but this is another humongous match.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tam and Kairi, that's huge. That's absolutely huge. It's a perfect match for this stage. And yeah, I think Tam's going to bring out this same version of Kairi that we just saw on this show, right? I mean, Kairi is someone who she has the WWE experience of adding and people say what they want about WWE, but WWE does help in a lot of ways. It gives you the added presence on camera and how to present yourself as a star, and you're going to mix that with Tam, who is the ultimate storyteller, on the Wrestle Kingdom 17 card, the first ever women's singles match on a Wrestle Kingdom card. That is humongous. It's absolutely gigantic. They weren't going to pick Shuri or Julia. I knew that. So it was either Utami or Tam, and they're giving us both of them within 2 weeks or 1 week. So it's like, damn. What? All right, I guess I'll watch it. It's gonna be great. And like, look at these two matches. This is great.
Yeah,
this is awesome to see. Like, what the Wrestle Kingdom back. Like, for people that were upset about the past couple of years with the two nights, and the rosters were kind of drained, like you said, or stale. They're going all out. They know. New Japan knows. Hey, it's time for us to say we're back, right? And
absolutely.
This is just a great change. I love that the women's match is on there. I love that Omega's back. I love that you're still doing the Okada Jay White match, because that's been your main story.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. It's those are your three main matches on this card, plus everything else.
And think of how special Okada is one of the best. I think one of the best of all time. I think he's working his way up that list.
For sure.
And Jay White is one of the better big match guys you're going to find. Like, think about his match with Ibushi at Wrestle Kingdom a couple of years. That was some of the best storytelling I've seen in a men's match, and I don't know how long. That was fantastic stuff. And you're also going to get that 4-way junior heavyweight title match that's going to be very, very exciting. We're probably going to see an FTR title match on this thing.
Aussie Open, perhaps?
I'm thinking it's going to be Naito and Sonata, because I don't know
okay
how
with
else.
Me too.
I don't know how else you get Naito on this show without it being like, an 8-man tag or something. And I don't think they do that with Naito on this stage. I think you put him in something
important. Not in big matches. What are we doing? That's crazy.
Yeah. I think something's going to happen that'll get him there. So should be a fantastic card, and it's really cool that Tam Nakano and Kairi are going to be a part of it, and a big part of it. This is going to be an important match on this show.
Very important. This Mayu and Kairi are going to set the precedent, right, in the big match, but this sets the precedent in a whole different way. This is the first defense. It's at Wrestle Kingdom. Like, this is a whole different match. You got to set the precedent twice, really. Like, what is this title going to mean? And I'm this is especially. I'm so happy they picked another Stardom roster member and didn't bring some big international star over, like from AEW or something, like a Tony Storm. Like, that would have been upsetting to me, because it's like, that's not what you're doing here. Like, you're trying, like, use your Stardom roster that is here, right?
Yeah,
they deserve.
I think they know that. Yeah, I think they know that this is about bringing Stardom up. Yeah.
Now, if they brought Sasha Banks in, I would have understood.
You got to do what you got to do. But I think we all agree. Again, we're talking about something else. Was like some of those people, like they could bring in some things and freshen up that roster as well, because I know that a lot of times Stardom had some of the same issues between injuries, and the pandemic and things. Like, it's time to see some more foreigners and all that stuff in. So we'll get all that, but go with the big guns, and they're going with that. So I'm excited about it, and this Wrestle Kingdom card should be terrific. And one thing I wanted to mention before we go on to anything else here, the tag team tournaments have begun, both of them, the junior heavyweight and heavyweight. We have one show with each. And since we're running a little low on time, I'm just going to go over, because we're very early into this. Early winners in the junior tag team: Alex Zane and El Lindemann got a victory. Taguchi and Clark Connors won. Tiger Mask and Robbie Eagles. Ace Austin and Chris Bay, they look good as a team. You mentioned them earlier. And the champions, TJP and Francesco Akira, are on the board with 2 points. In the men's heavyweight World Tag League, Mikey Nichols and Shane Haste got a victory. The TMDK, a lot of the new people got their first points in this one early here to establish them. Minoru Suzuki and Lance Archer, nothing new about any of those guys, but there you go, they got a win. Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi Aussie Open, again, another new team that's probably going to do well in this tournament, and Naito and Sonata got victories in the first couple days. And next week on the show, when Jeremy is back, we're going to really hit hard on this because these shows are coming fast and furious. I mean, it seems like almost every day there's a New Japan show this week. And, of course, Goddess of Stardom Tag Team Tournament is going on. You're just as busy as we are.
Oh, I sure am. I'm actually recording 2 shows this week for the 5-star. Because they had 2 pay-per-views this past weekend, and we're doing Tag League. Like, you know, they don't slow down. So definitely please check out the 5-Star Joshi show if you want to hear both of those. I have special guests to talk about both.
Very cool.
So that's cool. You know, I'm going to be talking about this show again. So, you know, maybe, but I a different perspective coming on the show. And I'll talk more in the Stardom, Super Stardom fan, which I tried to avoid doing tonight, but I failed. I tried to show a little equal, but this show got most of my New Japan thoughts too, which was fun. Which is always a joy. But yeah, if you want to keep up with all that, because now we get 2 tag leagues going on. Well, 3.
3.
3. But I've watched some of the junior tag league already, and it's some exciting action. I haven't seen the main event yet, but I've heard rave reviews about it from that first night. And I don't know what happened today in World Tag League, but I'm sure, like you told me, but I don't know if anything like killed or like was must see. So I just knew there was cheering events, so that makes them just a little bit better.
It definitely does, and hopefully we'll see more of that coming up. It sounds like we will. I'm really hoping Wrestle Kingdom is cheering event, but I don't know yet. I don't know if they've said or if they've totally decided yet, but I'm hoping it is. We'll have to find out. So, Scott, you want to run down your social media? Anything else? Of course, 5-Star Joshi Show, part of the Fight Game Media Network. You can find it all over there. And where else can they find it?
Yeah, when does this show go up?
This is going to go up tonight. Yeah, it'll go up tonight on Tuesday night.
All right. Well, I have so follow me on Twitter at Scotty Wrestling. You can follow me on anything at that, just in case Twitter decides to go away. I've kept the same username for everything, so you can follow me.
Possible. It's possible.
It is. But please listen to the 5-Star Joshi Show. I got a double dose this week, because it's a big week, of course. I'll talk about this show, but if you don't want to hear me talk about that again, there's still the other Stardom show that I'll be talking about, which was Gold Rush, including Shuri versus Utami, Saya versus Kairi, and a TLC match, which was just crazy to begin with. So please follow that, and keep an eye out if you are following me now that I will be dropping an interview tomorrow with a Joshi legend. That is the most I will give. That is the most I've given at all.
Oh man,
I've tried to keep it quiet because I've been so excited about it. I've had it for like a couple weeks now. Got to translate and stuff. So I'm really excited for everyone to read that one. So keep an eye out for that as well.
I'm very excited to hear that one. So thank you again, Scott. Really appreciate your perspective on this. You're the perfect guest to have on this show because it's such an exciting weekend. I loved it. I think this partnership is just beneficial for both sides. It's something added spice to the New Japan card. It's going to help Stardom. I just think it's a win-win all around. And if this is any indication, let's do these crossovers a lot more often. This is great.
Feels like a yearly event for sure. Moving forward.
All right. So with that, we're going to say goodbye for this week. Jeremy Feinstein will be back next week. I want to thank everybody for watching Speaking of Strong Style, and we're going to be back very soon. I put that up too early. See, this is why we need Jeremy back so that somebody can actually run this thing correctly, for the love of God. I'm Stephen Conway. That's Scott Edwards. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again very soon.